Example 5, the bearing from A to C is south 52 degrees east. The bearing from A to B is north 84 degrees east. The bearing from B to C is south 38 degrees west. A plane flying at 250 miles an hour takes 2.4 hours to go from A to B. Find the distance from A to C. Okay, there's a lot. There's a lot in this problem. If you don't break it down into parts and draw a good picture, I don't see how you're going to get it. Okay, so let's just go back and think about this thing piece by piece. The bearing from A to C is south 52 degrees east. All right, so this is in the method 2. And method 2, you're going to start with a north-south line. All right, start with a north-south line. It says south 52 degrees east. So remember, here's south, here's east. So start with south, and you're going to go 52 degrees to the east. So let's just put A right here. Okay. From A to C. So C is going to be on that line somewhere. We'll put that in later. The bearing from A to B is north 84 degrees east. So, all right, we're going to start with north and go around to the east. So north 84. Oh my gosh. Okay. So 84 is almost 90. Okay. So I'm just going to stick point B right there. North 84 degrees east. And then it says the bearing from B to C is south 38 degrees west. Okay, so we've got another bearing from B to C. So there's your north-south line, and it says south 38 degrees west. Okay. So we need to go from here to the west, from south to the west. So 38 degrees to the west. Oops. I'm going to move this up a little bit. Nope. Something like that. Okay. Now, it kind of looks like a right triangle. Hopefully that's a right triangle, but you're going to have to, you're going to have to figure it out. You can't just assume that that's a right angle down there where we're putting point C. Okay. I think that's a right angle. Can't assume though. What you're going to need to do is use some geometry. Back in geometry class, you learned that these three angles added up to what? 180. Remember that? All right. So if you take 180 minus 84 minus 52, you can deduce that that missing angle right there, that missing piece, is 44 degrees. Okay. So something else you learned in geometry class, all right, this one's not as easy to remember, but if you've got something like this, okay, so you had parallel lines cut by a transversal, and you might remember something called alternate interior angles. This angle and this angle were congruent. You might remember that. Alternate interior angles are congruent. That's not what I see in my picture, though. I see these two angles. Those two angles are obviously not congruent. Those were same side interior angles. Do you remember what those two angles did? Added up to 180. Very good. Okay, so let me clear all this out. So 84 plus something is 180. You can probably do that in your head. Figure out that that's 96. Okay, now 96 doesn't help me in my triangle. It's not inside my triangle, but it does help me overall because now I can see another 180 right here. Those three angles add up to 180. And so we can say 180 minus 96 minus 38 and get 46. So now I know this angle inside here is 46 degrees. And now we use more geometry and add up the three angles in a triangle. Those three add up to 180. And so what that means is it's going to be a 90-degree angle. Okay, that's really important we wouldn't be able to do Sohcahtoa without that 90-degree angle. Okay, 180 minus 44 minus 46 is going to give me 90. I've got my right triangle. Okay, now it says a plane flying at 250 miles per hour takes 2.4 hours to go from A to B. So they're going from A to B right here. And it says it's going to take them 250, or they're going 250 miles per hour for 2.4 hours. All right, that's fine. But then they talk about the distance from A to C. Find the distance from A to C. We want to find this distance. I'm going to call it X. So what you're going to have to notice here is that they're asking you for a distance and they're giving you a rate and a time here. Okay, so you have to be smart enough to notice and remember this formula, distance equals rate times time. Okay, so we can do distance equals rate times time to find the distance from A to B. 250 miles per hour times 2.4 hours is going to give me a distance. I can tell that those hours are going to cancel. 250 times 2.4 give me 600 miles. And so they didn't come right out and tell me 600 miles here, but we can figure out that that's 600 miles. And so if you look at your right triangle, there's a lot of information given here. Okay, there's a lot of information given here. But now I can do a trig function. I can do some Sohcahtoa because I've got an angle 44, and I've got an adjacent side x, and I've got a hypotenuse 600. So that looks like cosine, right? Adjacent over hypotenuse. Cosine 44 degrees equals adjacent side x over hypotenuse 600. Or x equals 600 cosine 44. About 431.6. So the distance from A to C, 431.6 miles.